welcome back to Beach Theory. Hey, it's been a while since you burped.
Since the last episode.
I think that when you burp, it shows your happiness.
Sure.
When it's too serious, you stop burping. Notice that.
Oh.
And so that's how you know if
true.
she's happy or not, if she's burping.
Oh, man.
And the last few episodes have been super intense.
Oh, my goodness.
But you know what? Today's episode...
It's wearing on me. Emotionally, I can feel the wear and tear just of being reminded of all of the things we've been through together.
Yeah. If you missed last week's episode...
It was intense.
The divorce letter.
We're not going to tell you a single thing about it. You're going to have to go listen. Isn't that mean of us? It's like a cliffhanger.
You're a horrible, mean... No, just kidding.
But I did. I gave Michael...
An ultimatum.
A divorce letter.
Go get a real job.
Hey, don't tell all of the secrets of that.
Okay.
You gotta go listen to the podcast.
Go listen to it. It's on our YouTube channel and podcast, wherever we are.
Also included in all of the videos that we are putting up on YouTube from Beach Theory, there are pictures and videos from the times that we're talking about.
So if you're just listening to this on a podcast, you can go follow us on YouTube.
Yep.
See our faces while we talk and see fun pictures along the way.
See the emotion and the tears. And the laughs and the burps.
It's been really roller coaster.
And the punches in the eyeballs, because that's happened a couple times.
And today is going to be interesting.
We're finally...
Go ahead.
We're finally at a point in our history, our retelling of our history, where we have gotten to the lighter part of our marriage, a turning point.
Today's episode's not going to be totally light, though, because there's some drama in it. But the nice thing is it's not caused by me.
And I didn't blame him for it.
It wasn't my fault.
So. That's true.
So even though we've ironed out the wrinkles of our marriage issues, we still got some stress in life.
Oh yeah, totally. It doesn't even matter. And we're still ironing out wrinkles in our marriage now. It's not perfect, and it never will be, because we are imperfect.
Right.
But we're trying our hardest, and I think that
even
our marriage gets better every single day, and I love you more every single day.
And I love you more every day.
And that's
You're so cute.
It's not being too sappy, because it's accurate.
It is accurate, and you have cute little ponytails.
Thanks.
So, what are we talking about? So, Corbin, you're pregnant.
I'm pregnant with Corbin. I just gave Michael the ultimatum letter that said, get a real job. You're not supporting your family.
What we're going to be talking about today with Corbin kind of has actually been happening during this whole process.
Yes.
So first of all, did we go to a doctor? We went to a doctor first to help us.
Then Michael got his job at the temple, and then we had Corbin.
Right
After. Pretty soon.
That's the timeline.
That's the timeline.
But let's backtrack and start talking about this pregnancy. Because
pregnancy is stressful. Let's just say that.
It already is.
It's already stressful.
But it was 100 times worse in Florida.
Yes. So
what hospital was it?
And let me just say, this is the experience I had, and I know that some of you live in Florida, and you're probably going to have had a really good experience.
Yeah.
Good for you. But I didn't. I just didn't. I didn't have a good experience. I had been spoiled by Utah's healthcare before, when we had delivered James in Utah and had him in Utah. So I went to Florida expecting a similar experience, and that is not what I got. We went there, and it
was like your first prenatal visit. You went to the doctor's office.
I was starting to call around, and I was asking a lot of people in the ward, hey, who did you go to for a doctor? And how did you deliver? Did you have a cesarean, or did you have a vaginal birth? And every single person I talked to was like, I delivered in the hospital with a doctor, and I had a C-section. And I was like, what? There was even somebody in our church that had 5 C-sections. And they said if they got pregnant again, they would die, because their uterine wall, it was so thin, and it had so much scar tissue, it would just rupture, and they would die. So
we're like, why are there so many C-sections?
I'm like, holy cow, how come I can't find anyone that has had in my life, a normal birth, right? Something, to me, a normal birth was vaginally and with the option of an epidural, and in the hospital where I could get treated really nicely and, I don't know, be pampered a little bit.
Here in Utah, when you have a kid, they really treat you like family.
They send you home with gifts.
You're allowed to record the video of the birth.
Breastfeeding covers, formula.
The doctors
canisters.
are all super nice and
They're
like
very
friendly.
relaxed.
Like you
It's
really
very
become
family friendly.
close to your healthcare doctor,
Yeah.
and everybody's just so awesome.
Yeah.
But in Florida, we got treated really weird.
Kind of on the verge of badly, I would say.
The first prenatal visit, we went to go get the appointment to see if she was officially pregnant, and they wouldn't let me go.
Okay. I was like, I could not remember what you were talking about. I'm glad we're recording this because I do not want to forget these things.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me in.
So we go
to
there.
even see the doctor with her.
Again, if you've listened to the other podcasts, you've known that we did not have money. We did not have money back then. We were still in the sales jobs.
We were on Medicaid. We were on Medicaid our whole marriage.
Well, up until that point, yeah.
We were on Medicaid from the beginning. You got pregnant with James right away, and you had Medicaid the whole time.
Yes. So we had Medicaid in Florida, and we went to the place that they suggested that we go to. So we go there, and we didn't realize, and this is nothing against Black people, whatever, but like the whole place that we went to, it was kind of in a ghetto-ish area, and it was kind of scary, and all the people there were Black. There were no other white people where we went.
It's scary being in the minority no matter where you are.
You're right. And it's nothing against
But that's where I grew up.
Black people. I love Black people so much. They're just so much cooler than white people.
Because I grew up in Orlando,
I'm so
Florida.
racist against my own race.
Be careful.
I know.
Don't judge us.
Don't judge us.
Okay? We're just being real.
This is just what we experienced.
I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and when I went to elementary school for 2 years, there was only 2 white kids in the whole class.
Don't get me wrong. He went to elementary school. He got learning. It just wasn't in public school. He went to homeschool.
I went to elementary school for 2 years.
It made it sound like when I went to my 2 years of school.
Oh, yes. No, I was educated, but I only did public school for 2 years. But that was just my life, and I was comfortable with that. I remember wishing I was Black.
That was his reality. You did?
Yeah, because they're way cooler. And I got teased and bullied a lot in elementary school.
Yeah.
And
there were only
call me cracker
you
and all that kind of stuff.
One other white kid.
Yeah, and we were both like total nerds.
Oh.
But that's besides the point. That's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I do want to get into the history of how we grew up.
Right, but I think it's just important to be said that here we are. In the minority in a place that we're unfamiliar with, at least you especially. And they pull you back into the office.
He took time off of his job, which at the time was a big deal because we needed every penny.
Employee.
And we went in
to go with you to the doctor's office.
with me to the doctor's office, and they call me back after a very long wait. It was like a 3-hour wait.
Ridiculous.
And it was like, why is it so long? This is cutting into all of his work. Like he won't be able to go to work today at all. But we went, and they called me back first, and they're like, okay, let's ask you a few questions first.
I think it just needs to be said that we were treated with almost disrespect. Like they weren't nice to us.
It wasn't nice.
They weren't friendly.
No.
They weren't kind.
But I got the feeling like that's how everyone treated everyone.
It probably is, but it's just not what we were used to.
No. So they called me back, and they were like, hey, we have to ask you a few questions legally before you're able to have your husband come back here. And I was like, okay. And they're like, does he beat you? And I was like, no. And they were like, okay, has he ever hit you? And I'm like, no. And they were like, they just kept asking me all these questions about abuse and him abusing me. And I was like, he hasn't abused me. He's not abusing me. He doesn't hit me. He doesn't hit our kid. Like, he's a good guy. And the way she reacted was like, that doesn't happen here. And I was just lying. Like, she literally thought I was lying. And I was like, no, he hasn't hurt me. Why do you keep asking me that? And she's like, well, we have to ask the wives before the husband comes back so that they feel comfortable enough to share. So share. And I was like, I am. He didn't do anything to hurt me. Like, he's not hurting me other than he needs a better job, but that's it.
And then they also asked you, like, do you have any tattoos?
No, this was later.
Was that later?
Yeah, that was later. But I was like, please, can he please come back with me? He got me into this mess, like
we're in this
together. Like, can he please come back? And finally
this.
She relented and was like, okay, fine.
But it was almost like
that was the norm.
She didn't want to. Like she
like she did not trust. I just think she just didn't trust men.
Right.
So then you finally came back and we finally started going through the appointment together. We found out I was pregnant. And then later we went to the end of the appointment and they're like, okay, we just have to ask a few questions. Have you ever had alcohol? And I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, have you, and she's like, wait, really? And I'm like, yeah, no, I haven't had it. And then she's like, okay, have you ever taken drugs? And I was like, no. And she's like, what? And then she's like, have you ever had smoked or had tattoos? And I was like, no and no. And she's like, I've never had this happen before. I don't know what to do. And I guess our appointment is over. Bye. And I was just like, oh, what?
What kind of place is this?
This is not Utah. This is not Utah.
Right. You were kind of like, do I even want to be here? Like,
I was
if
like,
this is the type of people.
This is the norm. That was the norm. That was what they knew how to deal with.
And
that wasn't me.
And that's uncomfortable to be in that situation where they're like,
but
you're weird because you've never done all these things.
It wasn't even that I was weird because I had never done those things. It was we don't believe you because that is not what we've experienced ever with anyone.
Right.
So they thought I was like lying. And I'm like, I don't want to have to go to every doctor's appointment, wait 3 hours, not have Michael come back with me because they're drilling me on how he's abused me this week, and not believe me when I tell them I haven't done these things.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I got to find somewhere else to go. This is and this was like
too uncomfortable.
The typical hospital that we would go to in Utah, like the equivalent of it.
But in the Utah hospitals, like you become friends with the doctor and the nurses, and everybody just loves you and they're nice. And I wanted to have a relationship with the nurses and the doctor.
Yeah,
but
and joke around, but you can't. It's like you couldn't joke around.
If they think that I'm this horrible person and they don't even want me there, and
they don't trust you,
they glare at me. I'm like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, we got to find somewhere else. So we asked around in our church, and they're like, yeah, we have somebody who's a midwife here, and they can help you throughout your pregnancy. And I was like, okay. So I go to the midwife, and she's like, it was the treatment that I got from the hospitals in Utah, the kindness and the down to earthness, sincerity,
respect.
Except they hated doctors, and every time I told them I want to go with you through the appointments, but I really want to go to the hospital and get an epidural when it's time for me to have a baby, they would just say, every time I said that, they would be like, well, are you sure you don't want to do it with us? They're really bad there. They'll just give you a C-section. They're going to end up giving you a C-section, and you're going to be unhappy with them, and they treat you terribly. And they were like, so basically, without knowing it, I just got pregnant. I was just like, I don't know what to expect. All I had was Utah's experience, and it was great. So I go to Florida, and I found out all the midwives hated doctors with a passion, and all of the doctors, all of the doctors hated midwives, and they would both like slander each other and just rip each other to shreds when they weren't around each other. And I was like, holy cow.
So we just stuck to our guns and said, no, look, we want to have the prenatal visits. We want to have this kind interaction
at the midwife's office
through the whole pregnancy at the midwife's office.
Because that was the kind of treatment I was used to in Utah.
But then when we want to have the baby, we want to go to the doctors, to the hospital, get an epidural, and have basically we were saying we want what we had in Utah.
Yeah.
And even if we have to do this in a roundabout way, we're going to make it happen, because
we definitely had to do it in a roundabout way.
Because we didn't like the process that was the norm there.
Yep. So at the beginning, we went with the office that didn't trust us and that thought we were unbelievable and lying, and then we didn't like that, so we went to the midwife for the whole pregnancy leading up to about 1 month before I had Corbin. And the last few visits, I was like, okay, well, we gotta find a doctor.
The doctor is going to deliver the baby. We should at least get
and the midwives had one doctor that they were like, he's halfway decent,
tolerable.
So we went with him, and he's like, I was like, okay, I don't want Pitocin because I progress really quickly, and getting Pitocin, it just makes you have contractions closer together and more frequently, and or start labor if you're not started.
Pitocin helps move things along quickly,
but
it can also cause the baby stress.
Yes, which can lead to a much higher risk of a C-section.
Right.
So I said, hey, this is what I did with my last baby. I really want to try and do this with this one too. I don't want Pitocin. I just want an epidural, and I want to have the baby in the hospital. That's why I'm not going with the midwives. And they were like, he seemed very like, I don't know, like such a diva. She thinks she can have whatever she wants. Ugh.
Right, but in Utah that's just normal.
Yeah, they're like, okay, that sounds great.
You want, let's make it. But this doctor's like, how dare you tell me how to do my job?
And we're like, hey, can we record this birth? Because like my family's not going to be here, and I really want to take pictures. Yeah. They wouldn't even let us take pictures.
I know. But leading up to the birthday, so it was like the beginning of December, and you were at my house.
My due date was it Christmas?
It was right around Christmas.
29th, maybe.
Something like that. But I remember you had a conversation with my dad, and he asked you, he said,
I was crying one day because I was like, I'm far away from home. I'm unhappy. My mom's not here. I'm pregnant. She helped me with my last pregnancy. She was there for me. I want my mom. And I was inside the house, and I was just kind of crying, and I was alone, but then he walked in, and he's like, Michael's dad. And he's like, are you okay? And I was like, no. And he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I just want my mom here so bad, but there's no way we can afford it. And he's like, basically like, leave that to me. And then he just bought a plane ticket, and he got my mom out there for me for the week of having him. And it ended up being, I think, longer than a week that she was there. She kind of didn't know when I would have the baby, so she got there, I think, about a week before I had the baby.
Is this the same time that your mom came to Florida with Steven and Jennifer?
Yes.
So, but my dad didn't pay for Steve and Jennifer to come.
No, I think they both paid for their own tickets. They just wanted to come. He just paid for my mom.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Steven left early. He was there for a few days, but he left early. So
Jennifer wasn't there when you had the baby either, was she?
Yes, I believe she was.
But she wasn't.
But she wasn't. I think she was watching the kids probably or something.
Oh, James.
Yeah.
Kid.
Weird. Yeah. So we go and. We go into my last doctor's appointment before we have the baby, not knowing that would be my last doctor's appointment. It was so nice having
your mom there.
Oh, it was.
And she got to see Florida for the first time. I think she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was what I needed. Oh man, that was such a healing thing for me in that really hard time.
Yeah.
So then, and Michael was working at the temple, so
I was working full time.
We went to the doctor's visit. It was me and my mom, and we get there, and he checks me to see how far I'm dilated, and I was dilated to a 5. And I lived an hour away from the hospital. And he checks me and he goes, okay, go to the hospital right now. And I was like, oh.
Didn't he say like, don't go home?
Well, I said, oh, okay, I'll just run home and grab my bag really quick. And he said, in case you want to have the baby on the freeway, like, you don't want to have the baby on the freeway. Just go to the hospital right now. So I was like, oh. That's what he said. So I'm like, holy cow, I'm already at a 5. I didn't even know that. So I go to the hospital, and the nurse is there. I had told this doctor multiple times, every visit, hey, I don't want Pitocin. I only want an epidural. That's it. I get there, and the nurses start hooking me up to Pitocin. And I was like,
how rude.
What are you doing? And she's like, the doctor said I have to hook you up to Pitocin. And I was like, the doctor said, I just got from the doctor's office, and he said I'm going to have the baby on the side of the freeway if I don't get here right now. And I have really quick labors. I've already had one baby. I know that it's going to be quick. I don't need Pitocin. And she's like, well, the doctor said that you need Pitocin. And I said, well, call him and ask him what I said, because I don't want Pitocin. And she's just like, if you don't have the baby within the next few hours, I'm going to kick you out of the hospital, send you home, and give this bed to someone else. And she literally said that to me.
This was at like the most critically acclaimed hospital in Orlando.
Right? The very best one that everybody, all of the people that I knew delivered. Palmer? Yes. Yeah. Don't slander it.
Well, it's just a story. But was I at the temple working when you called?
Yes. So we called.
I left work early to meet you there.
Once we went to the doctor's office and found out we were going straight to the hospital, I was like, grab my bag, go to the house, grab my bag, and meet us at the hospital. It's time to have a baby. Yep. So we get there. Anyways. So.
And my mom was with you and your mom was with you?
Yes. So both my mom and Michael's mom were there.
And me and you.
Yes.
So it was the 4 of us.
Yes.
Okay.
And your mom was sly enough that she kept taking pictures even though she wasn't supposed to. And I was like, yes.
My mom took pictures?
Yes.
We should see if we can find those.
Yes, we don't have those.
She probably doesn't have them either.
I don't know.
So I thought your mom was the sneaky one.
Nope, your mom. I was like, good for her. I want those pictures so bad.
And I was just preoccupied with trying to help you. Yes. I wasn't thinking about video.
So I get there and, she's trying to put me on Pitocin. And your mom gives me this incredible tip after I was like, don't put me on Pitocin, and the nurse goes away in a huff, like literally like, oh, you don't even know anything. And I'm just like,
dumb girl.
And I'm like, I do, and I know my body, and I don't need Pitocin, and I don't want a C-section, so leave me alone, you know? I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. And then Michael's mom was like,
so PG-13 warning.
Yes, so watch out for kids that don't know.
You know, when you have something to do with birth and labor,
it's gonna be PG-13 in some places. There's bound to be
something, you know, that you might say that you know, you wouldn't want a little kid to hear.
Yeah.
But anyway, just a quick
But
heads
it's
up.
Also just kind of fact. So
right. Educational. Really?
Educational.
To any of you women out there who may be considering having a baby or
yes,
or are pregnant,
so,
this could be handy.
Something that's a huge tip that even my doctor now has said, yep, that's correct, is if you have nipple stimulation, you start having contractions. You start going into labor. And that's exactly what I started doing.
Well, because my mom told you.
Because your mom said, hey, I heard this tip and it worked really well for me. She also had 9 kids. So I was like, okay.
So you tried it and it worked.
So nipple stimulation, I started doing that. And the nurse, the same nurse, I don't know how she forgot the interaction we had before, but she walks in.
Patience, I guess.
Yeah, she walks in and she just like stares at the spot where the Pitocin would have been, and she's like, oh, I came in to turn down your Pitocin, but it doesn't look like you have any. Oh, whoops. Oh well. So she leaves the room, and I like stop doing it because I'm like, because from that point I had an epidural and I was having a nonstop contraction.
Well,
it wasn't going down.
Going up and down. So there's like contraction, end of contraction, but because you were doing that so much, it was like contraction and contraction.
It was just like
and
like it was just nonstop contraction.
And you were getting like winded, like you were getting like exhausted.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I remember you being like just like really getting tired, and so then you stopped for a while to catch your breath.
Yeah. Well, it's just so funny because she came in after she had told me, I'm gonna send you home if you don't progress, and then I was like progressing like so fast. I did such a good job that she's like trying to turn it down. Forgetting that she didn't even give me Pitocin.
That's great.
Oh, that's my success story from all of this.
In your face.
In your face.
And then the doctor shows up,
and he's like, and I was so frustrated with that nurse just telling me, oh, I'm going to send you home.
Yeah.
After the doctor was like, you're at a 5, go to the hospital. Right. I'm like, who's not talking to each other? Like, seriously, there has got to be some miscommunication here because I can't leave here. I'm at a 5.
Right.
Anyways.
And he had to break your water.
Yeah, he broke my water. And then after that, what was it, an hour or 2? And he was born.
It was so fast. I think it was only like 2 pushes.
Yeah.
2 or 3.
Well, what was cool...
You just kind of... You let your body naturally move the baby and progress the birth to the point where he's like, oh, he's right there.
Yeah.
Push.
Well, what was cool is when you get an epidural, you can let the baby's head sit in the canal. And as long as they're in the birth canal and as long as their heart rate is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. And what it does is it stretches out your hips and
gives your body time to get ready.
To stretch.
Right.
It lets your body stretch so that by the time you're ready to actually push the baby out, you don't tear.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I was able to just sit there for long enough. And then they finally came and checked on me and they're like, oh, the baby's head is right there. Okay, everybody, let's get going. And the
doctor had a whole bunch of like
time to
residents,
catch a baby.
Like students that were like following him.
Isn't that funny? People have been watching us give birth, watching me give birth, even before YouTube.
There was probably half a dozen students that came to just observe and watch the birth process.
They were lucky they saw a perfect birth.
And your doctor was kind of like the superstar doctor who delivers all these babies.
Yeah,
you know? Like, watch me, students, and learn how I deliver babies. You know? But you were also like this perfect
superstar birthing.
Whereas like he literally walked in and was like, oh, let's just check on how things are going. Whoa,
oh, it's time to go.
Start
all
pushing.
Right.
And you just like literally was just like push twice and then boom.
Yeah, which was very
Corbin
different from our first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
It went so smoothly though.
So then everything was good. We finally had the baby. We didn't have to worry about doctor visits until the checkup at the 2-week checkup, I think.
Checkup, yeah.
And we were like, hey, we don't want to vaccinate. We just, at that time, we really didn't feel good about it. A lot of my family has had adverse reactions to the same vaccinations. And so we were just like, we're not ready to vaccinate yet.
Both people on your side of the family and on my side of the family have had reactions
issues
immediately following getting immunizations and vaccinations. So we're like, maybe we better just play it safe and not.
Yeah. And so like, we're not against giving our kids vaccinations, but when they're that small and we have a bad feeling about it, we're going to listen to that bad feeling. Like, we're not going to just do it anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't, but we were telling our doctor, hey, we're looking for a pediatrician. And he's like, okay. He found us a pediatrician, and we went to the pediatrician and we were like, hey, we don't want to vaccinate our kids. And he said, if you don't, I can't help you. Goodbye.
I will not be your doctor. I refuse to.
I absolutely refuse
to be your pediatrician if you
and
don't
we were like,
vaccinate.
Another one of those situations where Utah was just like 98% better than Florida. It was like, what? How? Okay, fine. So we didn't have a pediatrician. So that was another reason why we're like, let's go back to Utah. It's time to find another
we never even
family
considered
doctor.
going back to Utah at this point.
That's right.
Corbin was born December, right before Christmas. And it wasn't until April.
That's true.
That we even...
So I think we went back to the midwives. I think we still got the baby checked on. We still got him like the care he needed, but it was just not with that doctor.
Right.
And it was hard to find another doctor that was willing to do that too.
Yeah. But, nice thing is he was healthy. He was perfectly healthy. No problems.
Yep.
And so it wasn't like there was any concerns that we needed to have addressed.
And we didn't leave the house much too. When we had we always stay in the house for like 2 months after we have a baby, just to
keep them.
At least I do with
from
the
germs.
baby.
Right. When they're that small, they don't
and
have
if we
much
choose
of an
not to
immune
vaccinate, we have to be careful too.
Yeah.
So
if we're going to make that decision, then we need to be smart too, and not put the kid out there where all the germs and things are that they're
and I know for a fact right now some of you are listening to this and going, oh, I can't believe you're terrible parents. We don't do that.
Oh yeah, the judgments are
whatever but that's just our experience, and that's how we felt about it.
This is beach theory.
This is our theory.
You came to hear our theory and you get it. So you may hate it,
maybe
and you may
some
disagree,
of you agree with us. I don't know,
or maybe you agree,
but I know it's a very controversial subject.
It's very controversial, and maybe we'll do a podcast all about that another day. But for now, this is our beach theory.
Yes.
And this is, love us or hate us, we are.
But that's how it is.
That's right.
With us, at least.
So I think that's it. That's Corbin's birth story.
Yes.
Nothing else to it, right?
I mean,
it was really cute. I remember when James came, we even have a video of James' first meeting Corbin.
He ripped the hat off of Corbin was
head. Asleep, and he had this little beanie on.
Little Santa hat. That was a beanie that somebody had sewed for all of the people who are having babies around Christmas. He was born on the 21st of December, before Christmas.
James was 22 months exactly older than Corbin. And the first thing he did was he hugged Corbin and he gave him a little kiss.
He was very young, though.
And then he took off Corbin's hat and put it on.
On his own head. Very typical for even them now.
It kind of set the
I love you. Give me all your stuff. I want it.
It was cute. We have a video. We'll have that on our YouTube video.
Yes.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that little clip.
Yes, it was so cute.
But I think that's about it.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
What a fun story.
If you want to hear more about this, tell us in the comments below, or
leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. So if you're following us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to Beach Theory. Yes. Or you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts.
Or any place that podcasts are at.
That's right. Or Anchor as well. And give us some comments. We want feedback, and we want to have a conversation with you guys. So leave us your thoughts, and at a future
tell us
day,
all the controversial subjects to talk about. Yeah. Just kidding.
It'll be more interactive. We'll answer your questions.
That's right.
In the later podcast.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.